Hello, this is Mikey with Element Supply Company, and I want to show you a quick overview of our new plugin, Nimble Nimbus. Now, Nimble Nimbus is an excellent cloud generation tool for After Effects, and it's all done using just a simple preset. Well, and I say that lightly because it's not simple, it's actually very complex, and it can do lots and lots of stuff. So it launches just like a normal preset from your preset browser. Just make sure that nothing is selected when you double click on it, and it will build this cloud just like this. This is the default settings as is. Now what I've gone and done is I've gone ahead and animated the evolution. So in this, you can see there's cloud design and animation. So I put some keyframes on evolution, and I went from 0 to 1 full revolution over the course of 5 seconds. Now we can see as this is going, that's animating the evolution, and when it gets to the end at 360, it will automatically loop. So if you're building GIFs of some sort, this is really kind of a great feature for that. Now I want to show you how this works and all of the cool stuff you can do with this. Let's go ahead and pause this. And first off, in cloud design, we have cloud length, and that's just how long the cloud is. And of course, all of these are keyframeable. And you can see as I extend that out, it's really changing the shape of the cloud in a very organic way. Now, I will say that the longer the cloud length is, the more it's going to take to process this. So that's something to be aware of. Cloud scale is how big this cloud gets right here in the middle. We have slant. We can kind of slant the cloud one way or the other. Vertical alignment, we can kind of align the cloud, vertically. And something like that works. I'll show another example of how that works really good. End roundy is we round off the ends of the cloud instead of making them pointy. Spacing is the spacing or the resolution of this cloud. We can increase the spacing. You can see it's just made with a bunch of dots. Or we can kind of shrink it down, or we can make it go the other way. 0 by default is something that looks really nice. Random seed is, you guessed it, random seed. You can come in and change these to be whatever you want. Now in the cloud design, we have the top cloud and the bottom cloud. And we have those separate because as I scale down this bottom cloud, you can see there is some bottom bumpiness to this, and we can change all of these features for the bottom separate from the top. So if we want to say the correlation or the variation, change all those things, the contrast, we can change that. So let's go through each of these. I'm going to shrink that down just so we can focus on the top. Let's go through each of these and show you what they do. The top contrast is going to be the difference between the biggest and the smallest. So we increase the contrast, and you can see it shrinks down, and it cuts right into the ground, and you can create almost like a several clouds kind of grouped together, but not the same cloud kind of look. Really kind of cool. Decrease that all the way, and it's just going to be a big bump. So you don't want to do that. Around 80 looks pretty good. Maybe 90. All right. So variation is going to be how varied the cloud is. So we can increase the variation. You can see it's adding a lot of different variation to it. We can decrease that, and there's not as many different shapes and sizes. Correlation is going to be how closely one cloud section is related to the next cloud section. And so if we bring that down to like 2, you can see it's starting to look almost like a liquid effect. Bring that back up to 8. All right. Now, when you bring correlation up above 10, you can do it, but it starts to add a little bit of wobbliness to it. You can kind of see it's a little bit wobbly, and that's just the way things are because they're so closely correlated, but things are moving, and so everything's going to shift. So keeping that under 10 will stop that wobbliness. and then taper the top, left, and right. By default, it's set to taper, but you can take off the taper. There is no taper, it just straight out. Now let's taper the left 100%, and let's not taper the right. And what we can do now is when we do the vertical alignment, you can see it's almost looking kind of like smoke coming off of something. Let's get into the animation part of it. So down here in the animation section, we have evolution, and that's going to be just kind of your evolution of the cloud sweeping across that way. And then there's evolution scale. And what this scale does is it makes it so you can appear for this loop to be going slower in the same amount of time. So this is over 5 seconds. And if we want that to go faster, we can decrease the scale. And now it's going really fast across. Let's increase that scale to like 10. And you can see it's going slowly. And it's still going to loop. So let's put that back on 3. Now we can reverse the direction of both of these, the top and the bottom. So we can have that one going one way, and then the bottom going the other way, so it's got this kind of a rolling cloud effect. And you can also change the evolution scale on the bottom as well, so it's moving faster or slower than the top, so you can create lots of nice variation. And then lastly, we have the secondary animation. Secondary animation is going to add a bit of a kind of a bubbly look to it. Let's actually turn off the evolution, this main one, and just focus on the secondary. And I'm going to come in, keyframe that secondary animation, go to the end. Let's go one full rotation. And right now it's doing nothing because I have the animation amount set to 0. So this is basically the influence of this new secondary animation on this cloud. If I set this to, say, 100, then you can see it's going to have a lot of influence. It's really going to be adding a lot of bubbliness to it. Now let's set that, say, to 10. And there's just going to be a little bit going on. And it's just kind of adding a secondary animation to this existing cloud shape. So let's bring that down to 5. You can see it's barely even moving that at all. We can actually come in and still keyframe this top animation, this evolution. Let's go to the end. Go one complete rotation. The amount set to 5. You can see there is a little bit of changes going on. Just a little bit to give it some variation. We can also change the scale on that as well to make it slower or faster. So let's change the evolution scale on the main evolution. Let's bring that to 10. And let's bring this influence up to 10 as well. And I want to maybe bring some more roundiness to the sides, and let's bring the bottom down a little bit. Let's increase the scale. And let's take a look at that. I think I want to slow down the bottom. I did the top to 10. Let's do this one to 15. Now you can see there's just a lot of different variations you can create with a plugin like this. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's reset that. Let's turn off the secondary animation. And I want to show that this is just text layers. So there's some cool stuff you can do because it is a text layer. Let's go into the text layer settings. You can see we've got, here are the 4 animators that create Nimble Nimbus. So you don't want to mess with those. But what you can also do is we have path options text can align along a path. So if I were to create a path along this this layer, let's come into path options and select that mask. And now we have that cloud going along that path. And we can even animate it along the path and move it along the path, because that's how text layers work. Really, really cool. Also works well with layer styles. So we can come in and add layer styles to this if we want to just add like, a bevel and emboss to create just a different kind of cloud. We can do that. Any of the layer styles work with that. That way we can even add just a stroke to it. Now, if you want to duplicate, it is going to start getting a little bit heavy the more you have. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate these, and then I'm going to change the random seed so they're all different. Let's just scale down that layer, and everything's going to scale properly. Let's change the random seed on that one. And you can see nothing's rendered yet. I'm going to just hit spacebar to render this through, and I'm not going to speed it up or anything. We'll just see how long it takes for 3 instances of this cloud to go through for 5 seconds. Not bad. Pretty darn fast. Not real time, but I also don't have the fastest computer in the world. So that is Nimble Nimbus, available at Element Supply Company or elementsupply.co. So definitely come check it out, see all the stuff you can do with it. And I can't wait to see the great videos and amazing animations you make using Nimble Nimbus.